everyone, it's Miss Kristy and I have a fun book to read to you today. It is called Pirate Pete's Talk Like a Pirate by Kim Kennedy and illustrated by Doug Kennedy. And this one is one of my boys' favorite books from when they were little. Pirate Pete had the most amazing ship ever to sail the high seas, but he needed a crew. Not any old crew would do, however. I needs me a pirate crew, Pete told his parrot, and I know just where to find one. Rascal Island. To Rascal Island we go, cried the bird. Pete spun the wheel toward the sea of mischief, and soon his speedy ship had reached Rascal Island. Pete dropped anchor in the bay, and then he hung a sign across the ship, Buccaneers Wanted. Before long, a boat filled with rascals rowed up to the ship. Pete rubbed his hands in glee. They were the dirtiest, most mischievous and sneaking-looking scallywags and scurvy dogs he'd ever laid his eyes on. One by one, the rascals climbed aboard the ship. "Listen up, mateys," announced the parrot. "If ye wants to sail with Pete, then ye's got to prove ye's got what it takes." Pete nodded and declared, "Ye needs a peg leg and an old eye patch, a fierce-looking hook, and a beard ye can scratch. You gots to load a cannon and know how to fire it, but most of all, you got to talk like a pirate." A rascal stepped forward, loaded the cannon, and fired it. "Nice firin'," said Pete, "and I see ye gots a peg leg, hook, and an eye patch. And that beard of yours, does it hanker for a scratch?" "It is quite itchy," answered the man, "especially during the summer and when the weather tends to get sultry." "Blow me down," bellowed Pete. "Ye don't talk like a pirate. Walk the plank." As the man splashed overboard, Pete hollered, "Ye should have said, when the sun's a-blazin', my beard gets the itches, worse than a bucket of sand down me britches." "Next," ordered the parrot. Pete squinted at the rest of the rascals and said, "Ye's got to be stubborn and mighty cranky. Ye's got to be dirty and awfully stanky. You gots to load a cannon and know how to fire it, but most of all, ye's got to talk like a pirate." A rascal stepped forward, loaded the cannon, and fired it. "Nice firin'," said Pete. "And I see that you're plenty dirty and stanky, but is ye stubborn and cranky?" "Oh, indeed," replied the rascal. "Sometimes I'm very irritable, especially when I don't eat my breakfast." "Shiver me timbers," shouted Pete. "Ye don't talk like a pirate. Walk the plank." As the rascal went overboard, Pete cried, "Ye should have said, I's as mean as a shark that's stuck in a tub when I've not scarfed me morning grub." "Next," squawked the bird. Pete glared at the rascals and said, "Ye gots to love treasure, why it's your duty to plunder ship and shore for gleamin' booty. Ye gots to load a cannon and know how to fire it, but most of all, ye gots to talk like a pirate." A rascal stepped forward, loaded the cannon, and fired it. "Nice firin'," said Pete, "and judgin' by the gold and rubies you're floatin', I reckon you've done some plunderin' in your day." "That is correct," said the rascal. "I've misappropriated a number of fine jewels without permission." "Blimey," cried Pete, "ye don't talk like a pirate. Walk the plank." As the rascal leaped overboard, Pete shouted, "Ye should have said, I've pilfered loot on land and at sea, and no man's say-so has ever stopped me." "Next," blared the parrot. Pete shook his head. He had finally lost his patience. He curled up his lip at the last rascal and declared, "Ye gots to trim the sails and mind the deck. Ye gots to be brave in case of shipwreck. Ye gets to load a cannon and know how to fire it, but most of all, ye gots to talk like a pirate." The rascal walked forward, loaded the cannon, and fired it. "Nice firin'," said Pete, "but is ye brave? 'Cause no lily-livered seafarer is ever going to sail with me." "I can assure you I am extremely courageous," said the rascal. "I will conduct myself with valor at all times." "Confound it," shouted Pete, stomping his foot. "Ye don't talk like a pirate. Walk the plank." As the rascal dropped overboard, Pete yelled, "You should have said, I'm not a yellow-bellied bone. from me head to my toes. I'll stand brave upon the ship wherever she goes. Can ye believe it? Pete moaned to his parrot. Out of all them rascals, not a one was fit for me crew. 'Tis true, squawked the bird, by the powers. They's no more than a bunch of squiffies and sprogs, none of 'em fit to go a swashbuckling and plundering for pieces of eight upon the briny blue on this here vessel. Pete blinked. Why, ye just talk like a pirate, he cheered to the bird. You're all the crew I needs. Weigh anchor. Aye, aye, said the parrot, and off they sailed. Back to the high seas went Pete and his bird. A pirate always gets the last word. They looked for a crew so they could hire it, but blimey, none could talk like a pirate. The end. Bye, see you guys soon.